It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
And welcome into another edition of Musso at the box. LSU, they dispatch of Central Arkansas 4-3 on Monday afternoon. Runs their record to a perfect 4-0 early in the season. Completes the sweep of opening weekend. And now LSU will turn their focus toward weekend number 2. Another 4-game weekend. This one Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They'll welcome in the Northern Illinois Huskies and our friends from Stony Brook, New York. We have plenty of time to get into that later on in future episodes, and we will break that down fully for you. Today, we will talk about Monday's win over Central Arkansas, because just on the surface, when I look at that win, it is a scenario that we've talked an awful lot about here all throughout the preseason, and it played out. And it was kind of an easy one to see that was going to play out at some point. And there it was in the first weekend of the season. And that scenario is LSU, while the offense, shows out in Sunday's win against VMI, even in Friday's win on opening day against VMI, it's still coming along. And there were going to be times where it's not, hitting on all cylinders, running on all cylinders, and LSU's pitching staff was going to have to carry the day. And they did that. And that is one of the reasons why when we talked plenty about LSU's lineup and LSU's offense all throughout this preseason, talking about them in a sense of, okay, what's your concern level? And I told you 6 for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of potential in there and a lot of guys who I think are going to take the next step and all of that. But another reason it was 6 and not, 7 or 8 is because I believe in LSU's pitching staff that much that they are of the talent level and the efficiency this season, but they can win the one-run ball game for you, the low-scoring game. That's a game last year, 4-3 right there, that LSU probably doesn't win. If we're being honest, if we're being honest, at certain points in the season, that's a game they don't win because you really had to feel your way through the bullpen. It's the opposite this season, and starting pitching to some extent as well last year early in the year. It's the opposite this year where you're kind of feeling your way through the lineup a little bit, and you had some lineup changes in this ball game as well that we can get into that factor into certain things as well. So you had the pitching staff really carry the day, and they did very, very well. And I mean, there's a couple things that you could nitpick, but you'd be nitpicking if you did it. I mean, that's really the whole weekend for LSU, or the entirety of opening weekend. The pitching staff did really, really well. And if you want to nitpick, you can. So we'll get into it. We'll go through the entire, game, some of the high points of it, and obviously give you a thumbnail on the big key contributors. And I'm really excited to talk about the pitching from this ball game on Monday afternoon. So that's what we're going to do today, and I'm looking forward to it. So go ahead, hit the like, smash the like button. Share the video out. It's greatly appreciated. Subscribe up to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell so you're notified every time a video is posted. If you're listening to us on podcast apps, go ahead and get subscribed there as well. Anywhere you get your podcast, you can find Musso at the box, Apple, Spotify, Google, anywhere you get your podcasts, I'm right there. Follow me on Twitter at Musso Matthew. You can follow me on Facebook at Matt Musso. That'd be greatly appreciated as well. And with that, let's dive into the ball game, shall we? So I think one of the big things here in this one, everybody wanted to see the debut of Kade Anderson. And when we previewed this game, we told you Anderson's probably going to get the ball. I'm telling you that for a long time, that, when it came time for your quote-unquote midweek game, Kade Anderson, the freshman from St. Paul's, left-hander, number 2 player in the state of Louisiana in last year's cycles, probably going to get the baseball to start that. Excuse me. And it was a highly anticipated debut, and he pitched really well. Look, he goes out there in the first inning and mows him down 1-2-3 with a strikeout. And that was to be expected, because that was the other thing we talked about with Kade Anderson, right? Was, hey, he's been dominant in that first inning in all the scrimmages. I mean, striking out the side on 10 pitches in some of them. I mean, real dominant stuff. The second inning and on had really been an issue with him facing LSU's lineup in those scrimmages. And there's a lot of reasons for that. LSU's lineup probably going to be pretty darn good. And so far, they look pretty darn good. That's one reason. Reason two, y'all, it was the winter scrimmages at that point. They had seen these guys over and over and over and over again. You get used to, what you're going to see from a pitcher, but it's still something wanted to keep an eye on. And, look, Kade Anderson goes back out there for his second inning of work and immediately gives up a single. And I'm not going to lie, I'm sitting there thinking, uh-oh, okay, wait, here we go. This might happen to him here. But major credit to him, man. He bounced back, gets a fly out, a swinging strikeout. He would, and then would pitch around a 2-out walk. For some reason, with 2 outs and 2 on, Central Arkansas went to bunt, and they popped it up and kind of let him off the hook. So, he's cruising. He's through 2 innings. And now it's, okay, how deep can he really get into this ball game? In the meantime, LSU in the bottom of the first, they picked up right where they left off from the final game against VMI, just scoring runs. I mean, you have 3 straight singles to lead off the game for LSU. Travinsky's the third one, and that scores the first run of the game. And then the free passes start from Central Arkansas. Brady Neal's hit by a pitch. He would advance to second base on a wild pitch. That would score Tommy White from third. Jared Jones would walk after a strikeout by Pearson. Mac Bingham walks to score the third run of the inning. You've got a 3-0 lead. Let's fast forward to the third inning, if we could, because LSU puts up a 0 in the bottom half after, Anderson escapes the second, like we talked about. And the third inning is kind of where they were able to get to Kade Anderson a little bit, man. So Tanner Leonard singles up the middle, and then you have a throwing error by Anderson. They're trying to keep the running game in check. I understand it. It's a 3-0 ball game at that point. You have a freshman on the mound. Honestly, I could have done without that in that spot. That's just me. Anderson had been pitching well enough that I felt very confident in him. And again, it's the second trip through the lineup as well at that point going to happen in that inning. Leonard's your 9-hole hitter, so that would flip it back over to Mendelia. But I kind of felt confident enough in Anderson at that point that, man, I don't know if Central Arkansas is going to string hits together against him. So doing that, and I get it. Again, LSU was fantastic all weekend keeping the running game in check. So I understand what they were trying to do there. But 3-0 ball game, I could have maybe done without that. So throwing error there. That allows Leonard to advance to second base. Mendelia walks. You have runners at first and second and nobody out. And this is really the first adversity for Kade Anderson. Central Arkansas bunts, helps him out a little bit. You have runner that moves runners to second and third, and you have a wild pitch. And that allows the run to come home. But a major credit to Kade Anderson. He finishes off that at bat because you have a runner at third base, run already in on a wild pitch, finishes off that at bat with a swinging strikeout. And I thought that was massive. Jared Jones in the bottom half, homers to left center field. I'll say this about Jared Jones. Look, there are going to be much tougher staffs that he faces throughout the year. Okay, when they get to SEC play, he's obviously going to see much better pitching. And I think it's easy to look at what he's doing now and compare it to last year and say, okay, we've seen this movie before. But what I also will say is I think the at-bats have been much better from Jared Jones in these first 4 games of the season than most of them that I saw in the scrimmages. And the pitch recognition is why. In his first at-bat in this game, he had a great take on a breaking ball. And, he ends up working a walk in that AB, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he has a great take on a breaking ball down. That's recognition. That's what you want to see. It's him getting himself into hitters' counts. Ultimately draws a walk in that at bat. And on that home run in the bottom of the third inning, he hit a hanging breaking ball 400-plus feet. Again, yes, he will see much better breaking balls. He will see a much better mix of pitches. And again, yes, it's very easy to just be like, we saw this last year. He dominated the pre-conference and all of that, and I understand. But what I like is the recognition at the plate does seem improved over these first 4 games. So if he can build on that and continue to get himself into hitters' counts where they have to throw him fastballs, then Jared Jones is going to be a very productive player for LSU. He's got 3 home runs in 4 games right now, and that's the other part of it. That is the other part of it. And again, it ties back into it. He's going to see better pitching. Fully understand that. But if Jared Jones is going to give you, 3 home runs in 4 games, he didn't strike out on Monday against Central Arkansas either. So, I mean, if I'm looking at Jared Jones, hitting right now he's at 357 with 3 homers and let's see, 7 RBI. I'll take strikeouts in between there, man. Like I will. The day he had against VMI on opening day, where he's 2 for 4, a 3-run homer, a single, and 2 strikeouts, I'll take that from Jared Jones every day because he had 2 hits and one of them drove in 3 runs. Now it's just the consistency of that, and that's where it lacked when they got deep into SEC play last year, was the consistency of him being able to deliver that stat line. But if the pitch recognition and the at-bats look like they do right now, you could see that more consistently from him. So it was huge to see him hit that home run for a lot of reasons. One, it got you the run back and got the lead back to 3, and that was massive. And ultimately, that would be all that LSU needed. Now, I got a little hairy for them at the back end, but the pitching stood up and they pitched really, really well. Let's get into some of that. So in the 4th inning, Anderson again. I thought he kind of started to lose control a little bit there I literally mean control, like command of his pitches. In the 3rd inning, he comes back in the 4th, gets a strikeout to start the inning of Shipley. He gives up a single to Sturgeon, walks Trebby, and you have 1st and 2nd, 1 out, and then he locked back in. This was the best Kade Anderson looked all game, was the final 2 batters that he faced, in my opinion. Again, I mean, look, it was 3 up, 3 down on about 10 pitches in the 1st inning. Great stuff. But with 1st and 2nd, near the end of your rope, in a 3-run ball game and only 1 out, he gets Zeb Allen to strike out swinging. He gets Reed Bowman to strike out looking, and neither of those went to a 3-ball count. He mowed him down. Absolutely mowed him down. And loved it. When you look at Kade Anderson's line as a whole, 4 innings, he gave up 3 hits, an earned run. He walked 3, struck out 6 through 70 pitches. He struck out 6 in 4 innings. That's really good. The one thing that sticks out here is the 3 walks, but I will tell you this. That is not a concern for me going forward with Kade Anderson. I think it's his debut. I think he's a little fired up to be out there. And it got away from him a little bit at points with command. Kade Anderson's a strike thrower. That's the one thing we've consistently talked about here throughout the preseason. Anytime we would recap one of Kade Anderson's outings in the scrimmage, he's a strike thrower. You didn't necessarily see that totally today. 70 pitches, of those 40 were strikes, so about half. You want more than that, but you're going to get more than that. Y'all, I watched Kade Anderson start 3 separate scrimmages. He walked 3 batters combined in those. He walked 3 today in 4 innings. It's just not going to happen very often for him. He pounds the strike zone. So overall, I look at Kade Anderson's outing. I am extremely impressed. He got deeper, limited damage, got deeper than he had been doing in scrimmages. And, I mean, the stuff was the stuff we saw all throughout those scrimmages. Easy or low 90s velocity. He even ran it up to 95 once today on the fastball. You saw the changeup a little bit today, and you saw the breaking ball. He looked very, very good, and I'm encouraged to continue to see him pitch in the quote unquote midweek game scenario for LSU. I'll be very interested to see the next time he pitches for LSU, because you have 4 games coming up again this weekend with Northern Illinois and Stony Brook. You could see him pitch maybe the Sunday game of that, but you also actually have a true midweek game the following week, Wednesday against Rice, and maybe you want him in that environment too, because it'll be on the road and all that in front of a packed house and over there in Houston. So it'll be interesting to see when we see Kade Anderson next, but stellar debut for the freshman, man. He has a very, very bright future here at LSU. Just a very, very bright future at LSU. So couldn't be happier with what I saw from Kade Anderson in his debut against Central Arkansas. Another 0 for LSU in the 4th. It was 0s the rest of the way for LSU after that 3rd inning. So we'll just fast forward to the top of the 5th. Christian Little comes in, y'all, and here we go, man. I was ready to see Christian Little because we've talked an awful lot about him here too, where I think he can actually contribute to this LSU team this year if he limits the walks. We referenced his sophomore year at Vanderbilt, where he had 38 innings, which is kind of right on par with what he pitched last year at LSU out of the bullpen. And in that sophomore year at Vanderbilt, he only walked 17, and he had an ERA in the mid-threes. And if you can get an ERA in the mid-threes out of Christian Little, that's going to be huge for this LSU team. And Little, when you look at the final stat line for him, it's an inning and a third, a hit, a run, a walk, and a strikeout. I thought he was dominant in his first inning of work. Gets a ground out, a strikeout, and a fly out. But what's more of that was the body language. He looked like he was attacking. Fastball got up to 97, which is about top into his range. You saw three of the four pitches. You might have seen all four. I might be leaving one out there. But it was an attacking body language, an attacking mentality from Christian Little. He didn't look skittish. He didn't look standoffish out there on the mound like he did at some points last season when he was really struggling with command. That, to me, is a great sign, obviously. So he gets through the fifth inning unscathed. In the sixth, he does lead off with a walk. And as soon as that happened, I said, okay, lead off walk. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you do here. And he induces a fielder's choice on the next on the next at bat, and it's early in the count, which tells you pound in the zone. It's a good thing. The problem is after that there's a wild pitch, and on a 2-2 count you allow Sturgeon to single to shortstop, and you end up with runners at the corners. I thought Sturgeon was out when that play was reviewed. So it was a ground ball, sharply hit up the middle. Thought it was ticketed for center field first, but Michael Braswell ranges to his left incredibly well, scoops it, fires a dart over to Jared Jones. It's a bang-bang play. In real time, thought he was safe. When LSU challenged, they showed the replay and slowed it down. I thought he was out. It looked like the ball disappeared and hit the back of Jones's mitt right before the cleat hit the base. They didn't see it that way. The call was upheld. In fact, the call was confirmed, which, all right, chill out. But he's safe. So instead of getting that out, you don't. And that's it for Christian Little. They go to DJ Primo for his second appearance of the weekend, and his second appearance against Central Arkansas, and his second appearance in really the same type of spot where he's coming in, runners at first and third, except there's one out this time. And look, he induced a weak ground out back to himself. It did allow the inherited runner to score from third, but you trade a run for an out in a 3-run ball game. That's just what you do in that spot. Primo would then walk Zeb Allen. That was the one issue with Primo today. The strikes weren't as plentiful. He threw 7 pitches, and only 2 of them crossed the plate for a strike. So you want to see a little bit more out of him, but I think you will. And what you're seeing is them really going to him as a matchup specialist right now against lefties. He came in to face 2 lefties, and then you had a righty come in, and I think they were going to take him out regardless if he walked Allen or not. So he gets the one out. If he gets Allen out, that ends the inning, and you probably see a new pitcher to start the next frame. So they're clearly using him very much as that lefty specialist here early in the season. But he walks Allen. Gavin Guidry comes in. I thought Gavin Guidry pitched incredibly well. I know when you look at his line, you're going to see an inning and a third, a run that was charged to him. No walks, 2 strikeouts. I thought Guidry was much better on Monday than he was on opening day. 19 pitches, 14 strikes for Gavin Guidry. You compare that back to opening day, where I thought he was a little bit more erratic on the bump. 19 pitches, 10 strikes. So I guess it's really not that big of a difference when you really look at it. But he did throw 4 more strikes, which matters. I mean, that's going to increase your percentage there a little bit. The thing that was intriguing to me about Gavin Guidry is you saw more use of the fastball. So everyone knows Gavin Guidry needs another pitch. He's not going to be able to just go through this season really leaning on that slider, because teams are just looking for that. They know it's his best pitch. They know it's the pitch he goes to most frequently. He needs something else. They wanted him to gain a little bit more velocity on the fastball. That just hasn't happened. Gavin, in fact, I remember Gavin Guidry popping 92, 93 fairly consistently last season. It's a lot more 88, 91 here this year. So if anything, it's kind of down. But they went to it more Monday afternoon to keep Central Arkansas off balance. I mean, it was his second inning of work, his first full inning. So he comes in, strikes out Sermonelli looking on a 3-2 slider. And his first full inning of work is the 7th. And that's when you really started to see the fastball work. Like, the at-bat to Mendolia sticks out most. It was after a single to Tanner Leonard. He comes in and pumps 3 fastballs. Bam, bam, bam. 3 pitches. He's out looking. He wasn't ready for it. Goes back to Colts, and then Sagely, steps in after that, and it's more fastball. He gets a pop up to shortstop. So, that's going to be important. So I know you'd want the velocity to be a little bit higher, but as a show me pitch, it's going to help because it's teams, they aren't going to be looking for it. They're going to be looking for that slider. Now, when you get later in the season, if you keep mixing it in, teams are going to start to look at it, and that's where you're like, command and control are really going to have to come into play because you have to dot that thing because it is 88 to 91 miles an hour, and you can't make a mistake with that because it will get hit and hit hard. That's going to be something to really keep an eye on, is how if they can develop something else throughout the year to go along with Guidry's wipeout slider, or if that fastball, if he's going to have a good enough fastball command, that's going to be enough this year. We will see. But I thought Gavin Guidry pitched incredibly well. So, he got into an inning and a third right there, a shutout ball. He comes in to start the 8th inning, faces Shipley, and Shipley singles to left field. But again, he was ahead. This was actually a really good slider that Guidry threw. Credit Shipley. He went down and got it and poked it out into left field for the single. And that's when you went to go get Justin Lohr. And like Gavin Guidry, I thought Justin Lohr pitched much better Monday afternoon than he did on opening day. And again, yes, he allowed that inherited runner to score, and I'm going to get to that at bat because that at bat was actually really bad. But everything around that was much better. Compare opening day strike percentage to Monday. Lohr, 19 pitches, 12 strikes on Monday. Opening day, it was 26 pitches, 13 strikes. Much better ratio there from Justin Lohr. He was pounding the zone, and that's ultimately what you want to see. He comes in, immediately gets Sturgeon to strike out. You do have a wild pitch that advances Shipley to second base, but it's another strikeout looking. The at-bat that was unfortunate was Zeb Allen. Lohr gets ahead 0-2. He's pounding the zone, gets ahead 0-2, and then throws 4 straight balls. Gets ahead 0-2, throws 3 straight balls, and gives up a single to right field. That was disappointing because he was completely in control of that at-bat and lost him, and ultimately that allowed the run to score. And it made it a 1-run ball game. And when you're looking at the back end of that bullpen, Justin Lohr, Gavin Guidry are going to be big parts of it. You don't necessarily want to see him give up the inherited run there. But you had a 2-run lead. And your job in that spot is to get out of the inning before the game's tied. And he did that. So that's a success in my eyes. And he did it with a strikeout. He struck out the side in that inning just with that single, to allow the inherited runner to score wrapped around it. And then Fidel Ulloa. When I get to talking fast, his name becomes much more difficult. Fidel Ulloa comes in, slams the door. I continue to be just thoroughly impressed with the JUCO transfer, Ulloa. Fastball, again, up to 96. He got 3 groundouts in the 9th. It was very, very low maintenance, no 3-ball counts, just what you want in a 1-run game to slam the door. He's been very impressive, and he's going to be a major part of LSU's bullpen this season. He just has to be. And the Tigers win at 4-3. Overall thoughts on this ball game? Kind of like what we said off the top, it's a scenario that I thought we would see throughout the early portion of the season where the LSU offense isn't, totally clicking on all cylinders and the pitching staff's there to pick it up. And this was the first instance of that. Y'all, LSU, it looked like they were going to pick up right where they left off offensively. They had 4 runs on the board through 3 innings, and I believe it was on 4 hits. And then when Central Arkansas took Bryce Parlin out of the game, went to Gavin Alvetti, he handcuffed LSU for the remainder of the ballgame. 5 1/3 shutout He struck out 6. He was awesome and was very efficient. 69 pitches for Alvetti. Sidearm guy, everything moved that he threw, and he had great command of it. It was always in the zone. I mean, you look at him, he threw 69 pitches, 43 of them were strikes. I mean, he really pounded the zone well and handcuffed LSU, and you tip your hat to that guy. What's great about it is LSU has the pitching staff right now to limit for that not to matter, in a sense. They can limit the opposition enough where 4 runs is going to be okay for LSU to win the game. How many times last season, Omaha notwithstanding, was 4 runs enough for LSU to win a baseball game? Not many. So that's great. I loved LSU in the strike zone in the game on Monday. Only 5 walks from the Tiger pitching staff. And again, like I said, 3 of those came from Kade Anderson, and that's going to be an outlier, in my opinion, for him. So when you walked 12 the game prior, to knock that down to 5, I think it's great. I think you saw a couple guys pitch a second time in a weekend and be very effective, and that's important. Gavin Guidry, Justin Lohr, we talked about those guys. Fidel Ulloa, goodness gracious, Fidel Ulloa, twice in one weekend. DJ Primo. I thought Guidry and Lohr pitched better the second time they did the first. That's an encouraging sign, and I liked what I saw from Christian Little. So there are really no complaints for me on this opening weekend for LSU. I thought they won 4 games. They won them in a lot of different ways. You won a 1-run game. You had a couple come from behind efforts in that opening day win against VMI. You had the shutout where you just dominated on the pitching on a day at the park fit for pitchers. And then you had just a complete onslaught and blowout in one. So that's been a hallmark of Jay Johnson teams so far in his time at LSU, and now 2 years and 4 games where they can beat you in so many different ways, and this team looks like they're going to be no different. So I would say the pitching has been as advertised so far. They've pitched to a 3.7 team ERA to this point, which is great. And I think the offense as well has kind of been what I expected it to be. I thought LSU would put up a lot of runs this past weekend, and they did. I'm still not sold on the offense. I mean, you look at I think they're going to be very good. Don't get me wrong. Like Stephen Milam, the emergence of him, he's been incredible. Michael Braswell's been off to a slower start than I think most of us would have liked to have seen. And I thought Monday was a particularly rough day for him at the plate. I thought it was his roughest day at the plate actually in an LSU uniform so far this season. 0 for 4. He punched out for the first 2 times this season and grounded into a tailor-made double play. Like, you're going to need a little bit more from Michael Braswell. Early, the first 3 games, he was really putting the ball into play, and it just wasn't falling in for him until game 3. Monday was rough. But, Hayden Travinsky's been great. Tommy White's been great. We mentioned the emergence of Stephen Milam and Jake Brown. I'm a little surprised Josh Pearson has struggled the way that he has after opening day. But that's a guy who I think you can count on. And then we talked about Jared Jones. So Brady Neal, has done well to put the ball in the play. I'd like to see him use the backside of the field a little bit more. But he's done well to put the ball in play plenty of times. I mean, let's see. He struck out once on Monday, but had the big day on Sunday. So there's still pieces there that you can move around. You didn't see Paxton Kling in the lineup on Monday. He's off to a bit of a slow start. They're not a finished product there. They're not a finished product on the mound, don't get me wrong, but I feel like that is definitely what we thought it would be up to this point, and we'll continue to get a larger sample size as the season goes on. They're playing very well. LSU is. So they start the season 4-0, beat Central Arkansas on Monday. Now they will turn their attention to Thursday's game, which starts another 4-game week for them, this time against Northern Illinois and Stony Brook. Go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell so you get notified, subscribe to the podcast on your podcast apps as well. Follow me on Twitter at Musso Matthew. Follow me on Facebook, Matt Musso. And be back here again for the next edition of Musso at the Box. We're going to talk a little bit about some maybe under-the-radar surprise performances so far and what they could mean for future roles at LSU, and really put a final button on opening weekend. That's on the next edition of Musso on the Box. Appreciate you tuning in now. Encourage you to tune in next time.